Welcome to the Ag Commodity Corner Plus podcast. It is September 12th, week 25.
Hey, everybody.
Well, this week was another interesting week. When was the last time we saw corn close at $4.30? That's the second consecutive week where we've seen the market trade up. Last week we were up 8 cents. This week 12 cents. We're catching some momentum. That momentum to the upside is picking up. We'll talk about that. Soybeans up 19 cents as well. We had soy oil trading higher for the day, but down for the week. Canola also caught some bids. There's some good news on that Chinese tariff resolution on canola. We'll get briefly into that as well. Lean hogs to new contract highs. Live cattle, feeder cattle did plunge this week, but I don't know. I think it's just a correction within a bull market. We'll talk about the technicals there as well. Class 3 milk is in free fall for the second week in a row. Of course, the Dow, the S&P, and the Nasdaq went to all-time record highs. Anticipating interest rate cut next week. Maybe the Bank of Canada will follow along as well. And then we got Bitcoin catching a bid as well, but, still short of the record highs in that 124,000. We had gold trade to new highs as well as silver, and then the currencies really weren't doing much this week. So let's get into it with the USDA September crop report.
Yeah, so sticking with the crop aspect of things, today was WASDE Day, the September WASDE, and as shown there on the charts, we did get a cut in the yield estimates for US 25-26 corn down to 186.7 bushels per acre versus last month at 188.8. That was expected. Just the magnitude of the reduction was the big question mark. But shockingly again, USDA has increased US corn acreage, harvested acreage now at 90.047, planted acreage almost 99 million acres more.
Yeah, so I don't know where they're finding these acres. But, there's still a big crop coming. So, we're at 16.8 billion. Excuse me. And the yield drops a little bit, but the USDA increased exports by about 100 million. We're up about 5% compared to last year, but the early pace is up 86%. So I know it maybe caught some people off guard, but it was no surprise to us because when they increase production as much as they do, particularly in this case with more acres, they will also increase demand to offset it. So, yields have come down a little bit, but this was a counting report. In other words, where they're counting record years and record pods. So have they started, early harvest and early reports from farmers are suggesting that the yields are much lower than what they were on August 12th. So, but I think you'll get a bigger reduction in the October 9th crop report because that report is all about kernel weight and pod weight, and that's when you'll know if disease and dry weather has impacted the yields.
The global numbers as well, Mo. The big one there, I guess, could be the wheat estimate. Bearish numbers, 264.06 million metric tons was expected at 261 and last month at 260.
Yeah, there's just too much excess supply around the world, and that story hasn't changed. Although wheat did bounce from the lows from last week, so maybe some silver lining there. Maybe we have, found a short-term bottom. I think what caused wheat to maybe bounce by the end of the week was the support from corn.
Let's get into some of those factors that have all of a sudden, or rather have been affecting the finish of this U.S. crop. North Dakota, looking at the frost map, many parts of western and north central North Dakota experienced an early frost this past weekend, while some minimum temperatures remain near that key level of 32 degrees Fahrenheit. A few stations did show the upper 20s. Some of those crops surely would have been impacted.
Yeah, so, if for those who've been watching our podcasts over the last few weeks, we've been trying to connect the dots. Not only have we been trying to connect the dots towards a phase one or phase two trade deal with China and the U.S., but we've also tried to connect the dots on lower yields. And we talked about that early frost possibility, and we got it last weekend where the northern plains got hit with a severe frost, western North Dakota into Bismarck. And we've talked to a bunch of farmers and experts in that area that were harvesting, had a crew up there. And we're going to teach you something today. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the triple 40s. The North Dakota farmer fears the triple 40s. The last time they saw that was 2005. It's 40% moisture, 40-pound test weight, 40 bushels per acre. Literally, the crop won't dry down. You might as well just harvest it early and feed it to expensive cattle. So again, just another one of those events that could have shaved the top end on that record North Dakota crop.
Also, looking at this week's latest U.S. crop conditions, despite all that noise and news about disease pressure, Iowa and Wisconsin, where a lot of that disease pressure is being felt, good to excellent conditions still at 80% in Iowa and Wisconsin at 82%. Whereas all the latest updates, boots on the ground updates, tell us that the disease pressure is out of control, especially going into those states and also Indiana and Illinois as well, Mo.
Now, I think the disease is a game changer this year. We never did get that last year. Driving around and looking at crops at 70 miles per hour does not give you a good idea of what that disease is doing to crops. So I don't know. These crop conditions, yes, they're falling, but I think they need to fall even further. They're not really giving you a good picture of what's actually happening in those fields.
And going into the drought condition and also the recent nighttime temperatures that have been felt in Indiana and Illinois, some of that have been record high for this year, as told to us by some of those crop experts as well.
Yeah, before I get to that, I just want to go back to this. Guys, look, we're not making this up as we go along, but we've talked to experts. The last expert I talked to this past week was Dan Quinn. He's a corn specialist out of Purdue University, and he confirmed with me that there's 6 corn diseases in the state of in Indiana. And if you guys remember, we showed you the maps where Ohio got to the driest in 133 years in the last month or so. Well, then they flipped to the coldest in 133 years. And then over the last 5 days, we flipped back to 95 degrees. Well, he says that the minute that they flipped to that very cold weather pattern, it introduced tar spot to the state. So it's a crazy, crazy year. And to get into temperature, again, he also verified to me, and this is the best, I apologize, but this is the best chart I could find. It's sometimes with some of this stuff you can't really find enough. I don't know if NOAA has any data. And if somebody does have a better chart, please let me know. Just provide it in the comments. But he confirmed record nighttime temperatures in Illinois and Indiana this summer. And anything above, and you can see from this chart here, in that June, July, maybe August, we just had too many nighttime temperatures. Above that 70 degrees, anything above 70 degrees, remember, corn needs to take a break and breathe, and I think it was having an issue doing that. So, again, another dot that we're trying to connect. Guys, if you're the decision maker on your farm, marketing should be the last thing that you cut on your cost. Why? Because you could end up leaving so much money on the table. Look, it's a small cost. Try our program. I guarantee you're going to make more money. We can manage every risk on your farm. If you're struggling with marketing, if you hate it, when most farmers hate it, let us do that for you. We're not going to get it right all the time, but we're going to get it right 8, 9 times out of 10. We're better than most, but if you don't try the program, you're not going to know. You're getting a little bit of a flavor here with this free weekly podcast, but you'll find that we're the first movers. We will try to predict the future with some accuracy. We will stick our necks out for you. We want you to be successful.
Looking at that upcoming South American crop, this one's for the soybeans. Mo, does it look like another big record crop? We had USDA come out today with 175, unchanged from the previous month for that 25-26 Brazilian soybean crop, whereas some of those private estimates, especially from Ag-Rural, they're already at 180.93.
It's crazy how big this crop is, but I'm going to end with a thought. I'm not going to bring it up just yet, but yeah, you're up 5.3%, 6.6 billion soybean bushels. Just crazy. But I don't know if we can get that crop to get to 6.6.
Yeah, and like you said, looking ahead to that growing season, this being a La Nina year, some of those weather models are pointing to a dry forecast near term for South America, whereas some other models are not. And those early monsoon rains could be a big question mark as of now.
The weather models are trying to put rain into the forecast just like they're trying to put rain into the U.S. Midwest Eastern Corn Belt, and they continue to struggle. This pattern looks dry through mid-October, and the Climate Prediction Center is now calling for a 70% La Nina pattern from neutral entering the winter. So the farmers are going to probably wait for that rain to fall, but it's early. I don't think we're going to get too concerned. The funds won't get too concerned until probably late November, December.
We've been talking about that flash drought, especially for the Eastern Corn Belt, and that continues to be a significant issue for the Midwest. Even as of now, and looking ahead to the month ahead, it looks like infrequent rains for the ECB. In fact, some of those soybean moisture levels are at 16%.
Guys, it remains very dry through mid-October. If that forecast verifies that this is an updated chart through September 11th, and we were 130, it was the worst drought in 133 years, and that hasn't changed since August 1st. I think this map is going to stay like this through mid-October, and that flash drought will be 90 days long. What do you tell me, what is that doing to yields? I don't think the soybean yields a 53.2. We don't think the corn yields a 186 and change. We think it's much lower. The question is, how much lower? And then again, with this chart here, you can see how dry it is in the Eastern Corn Belt. It's a poor finish, guys. We're not getting enough rain. You know, I don't have to tell you that. I mean, you've been farming for 30, 40, 50 years.
Flipping over and looking at geopolitics, the Canada versus China situation, we have a delegation which supposedly had constructive talks with the Chinese counterparts after the duties on canola. More dialogue is incoming.
This is good news, guys. We talked about them meeting last week. They got together. It was constructive, and hopefully we can get a resolution out of this. The trade was thinking it was going to take years. The trade, again, is too bearish. And the trade's forgetting that if we can get a phase 2 trade deal with China, and we'll get to that here in a second, it's going to send soybean prices higher. You've got the potential for soy oil to move higher because of the new biofuel blending mandates next year in 26. So, you know, many in the trade, again, were just too bearish, thinking that, oh, well, canola prices will drop another $100 per metric ton. So don't use fear to panic sell, and because I think it's just going to cost you money. Be patient. Go harvest your crop. You're currently harvesting that crop. Find out what your yield is, and then we'll see what happens as we get into October and November. But I think the bottom's in for canola. And you can see from this chart, that we have bottomed. Whoops, I got the wrong chart in here. This is the soybean chart. So I apologize, but that was supposed to be canola. So, what I was trying to show you basically is that we could go back to that 650, 670, maybe even as high as $700 a metric ton. Your 650 becomes your new ceiling. That was your old support.
Sticking with geopolitics and looking at the other strained relationship, or at least what used to be strained, the U.S.-China situation. More talks supposedly happened this week, and also trade is looking ahead to a possible Trump visit to China, and some are saying by November, I believe more. Are we inching closer to that phase 2 trade deal?
We've talked about this in past podcasts. Again, we were trying to connect those dots towards a potential phase 2 trade deal, and we said that there was potential for Xi and Trump to meet at the APEC summit mid-November. That's when those pause on tariffs come off. This is good news. They met this week. Now they're meeting again next week in Madrid. And so this is, I think negotiations are moving ahead. And there was also some rumors and trade talk that China wanted to buy some U.S. sorghum. So again, connecting the dots, and I'm hopeful that we can get something done soon.
And finally, looking at the cattle market and more, this was bound to happen after that runaway upward sloping uptrend that we've had in the cattle markets for so long. So the cattle futures have been correcting. Cash also has been correcting, but we are still holding a big, futures are still holding a big discount to cash still.
Yeah, you can see here on the chart this parabolic move here. You guys have heard us talk about the 200-day mean, trading well above that mean. And you can see when I connect my dots, my uptrend, the bull market, we got well ahead of that. So in other words, the funds overshot the mark probably because of greed, and they needed to correct lower. Now, I wouldn't be surprised that it comes back into this range here just as a corrective consolidation phase. And once that happens, you can resume the uptrend. We just need to buy some more time, right? I think the funds tend to do that. They overshoot the mark to the upside, and they can do it to the downside. But is this a top? Is it over? No. We think it's going to continue into 2026.
And the CFTC update, the weekly update, which came out earlier, showed more selling in corn, soybeans, canola, cotton. There was some buying in soy meal and also HRW wheat and spring wheat as well.
Yeah, so, they took a pause last week, probably net short the ag commodities, the grains. But this week with the performance in beans as we ended the week and corn, they were short covering. There's no question. So we're probably short maybe 80,000 or something less. Probably went back long soybeans. So it was good end to the week. Until next time, thanks for watching. Make it a safe one. If you're harvesting, make it a safe one. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the weather. Take care.
Bye, guys.